Hello, everyone, and welcome to this short podcast titled Getting Used to New Things, a Colombian Education Panorama. My name is Juan Diana, and I am a future English teacher in Colombia. Today, I'd like to share my perspective on the national education system, its challenges, and how I would approach them as a teacher who is getting used to the realities in or of our context. In this section, the current panorama in education, in Colombian education. First of all, Colombia has made several efforts to improve access to education. However, many challenges still exist, such as inequality between urban and rural schools, lack of resources, and low teacher salaries. I consider the last one is the most important. I'm just kidding. I used to think that education policies were enough to warrant equality, but now I understand that policies must be adapted to local needs. Now let's talk about my role as a future teacher. I am conscious about many things. However, as a future teacher, I am getting used to the idea that I will not always have ideal conditions to work in. I will probably teach in places that where there is not internet connection or where students struggle with basic needs. But I'm already becoming familiar with creative strategies to teach with limited resources. I'm also used to using technologies to support learning, and I plan to integrate it as soon as possible. So now in this section, approaches, strategies, educational philosophy, I believe education should be inclusive and humanistic. I want to create a classroom where students feel safe, respected, and motivated to learn. I will use games, music, and real-life context to teach English. I'm sure about something. At first, my students might not understand everything in English, and I'm talking about that because of my experiences in the past. At the beginning of this process is so difficult because a student that is learning another language may not understand anything, and it's so difficult, but they will get used to it as we build confidence together. I will also help them get used to participating, expressing themselves, and working in teams. So finally, we have the reflection of everything in this process. So throughout this project, I've learned a lot about the real conditions of education in Colombia and my role as a future teacher, of course. I've realized that teaching is not only about knowledge, but also about understanding students and adapting to their context. Doing this reflection has helped me realize that being a teacher in Colombia means being flexible, creative, and empathic. I used to be afraid of education system's problem, but now I feel more prepared to face them. I'm getting used to thinking critically and adapting my ideas to reality. This process has changed how I see my future. Teaching in Colombia may be challenging, but I believe I can make a little difference by being patient, passionate, and resilient. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope my reflection helped you understand how a future teacher like me getting used to the education in context in Colombia. See you next time and keep learning.